Okay, one more video to go over section 1.5. We're still working with radicals. We're still going to solve some equations, some quadratic equations using square roots. But before we get to those equations, I'm going to show you how to rationalize a denominator when you have a situation like this, where your radical is part of an expression. What you need to do with that is multiply this. We have to multiply it like we did before, but we're going to multiply it by something that looks like this. I'm multiplying it by the same thing on the numerator as I am on the denominator because I'm multiplying by 1 and I don't want to change anything. And the reason I chose this is 1 minus square root of 3, this is 1 plus square root of 3, is, well, you will see what happens and you'll see why I chose this. This is called the conjugate. 1 plus radical 3 is the conjugate of 1 minus radical 3. And this is why I chose to use it. Watch what happens. I'm going to multiply, I'll change colors. I'm going to multiply the numerators together, first of all. Okay. We're going to put it together like this. Alright, so the top you're going to use the good old distributed property. So we've got 2 plus 2 radical 3. Actually, let's not even bother doing that right now. I'm going to leave it for now. We're just going to work with the denominator right now. So I'm going to leave the top just the way it is. 1 plus radical 3. 2 times 1 plus radical 3. The denominator, we're going to FOIL it. First times first is 1. Outer. 1 times radical 3 is a positive radical 3. Inners. Negative radical 3 times 1. Negative radical 3. Last. Negative radical 3 times positive radical 3. That is the same as minus 3. Remember, radical 3 times radical 3 is 3. So now look what magically happened. Still going to write my numerator here. What happens with our inners and outers? Okay, hopefully you're saying it. They cancel each other out. Sweet. Okay, so we're left, so these are cancel each other out. That's 0. We have 1 minus 3. That's a negative 2. Okay, now we can reduce. This can cancel with this. On the top, we're left with 1 plus radical 3. Okay. And all of this is negative because even though we canceled the 2's, that negative was still there. So we still have the negative out there. So you also could write this as minus 1 minus radical 3. And that is what this really is, simplified. Now getting to actually solving some equations. Here I'm going to take the square root of both sides to get going here. And this is what you have to remember to get rid of the square. You're going to say, okay, x is 10, I'm done, yay, woohoo, awesome. But you're not really done. Is there another answer that would work for this? Yes, there is. There's positive 10, and there's also negative 10. So we have plus or minus. When you take the square root, you want to put a plus or a minus out in front of here to remember that you have two situations that can occur. Same thing with this one. Take the square root of both sides. So we have a equals plus or minus the square root of 50. We'd like to be done, but unfortunately we have to do a little bit of simplifying. 2 times 25 happens to be 50. So we have, I'm not going to skip a step here. That's 25 times radical 2. So we have a equals plus or minus 5 times radical 2. A couple more, just to get you through your homework. 2 more situations. To solve for x, you got to isolate it. Okay, add 6 to both sides. That's our first step. So we have x squared over 25 equals 4. Okay. Now, to get rid of the 25, we need to multiply both sides by 25. That will eliminate our 25. So we have x squared on the left side equals 100. Well, we're about where we left off on that last problem. Take the square root of both sides and you get x equals plus or minus the square root of 100, which is plus or minus 10. So that is our solution to that quadratic. Here we go. Now your first instinct is you're going to want to multiply this out. Okay, don't do that. Don't multiply this out. It's going to make it harder to solve. You're not going to be able to solve it that way. You're trying to isolate the x. It's already in these parentheses squared. So we are going to leave that alone for now. Your first step you want it to be divide both sides by 4. X minus 1 squared equals 2. Okay? Now you can take the square root of both sides. Shoo! Shoo! There we go. You like my sound effects? I know, they're so good. X minus 1 equals plus or minus, oops, come on, the square root of 2. Okay? That's what taking square root of both sides does. We're not done though. We still have this pesky little negative 1 over here. So we are going to add 1 to both sides. Okay? So x equals 1 plus or minus the square root of 2. Okay? You could have, I guess, put plus or minus square root of 2 plus 1, but that might look kind of weird. This is more of the format you're going to want to keep it in. Okay, put your radical second. And that is that.